Today I'm speaking with Amedu Oriazele. Amedu, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Tim, for having me.
Absolutely. So glad to speak with you. And just to give a brief bio, Amedu lives in Benin, Nigeria, but we're recording today from Lagos, Nigeria. And he works for the Lovewise Initiative, which is a humanitarian organization that he co-founded. It provides medical care to those who can't afford it. He was born into a Christian family, and he became a pastor himself for 13 years in the Baptist denomination, as well as the Redeemed Christian Church. And he ended his time as a pastor with a church he founded called the Embassy of Grace. Besides that, what I know about you so far, Amedu, could you tell us more about yourself?
That's basically it, but I would like to give a background into how all of that started, because it's a beautiful story to bring me to this point in my life.
Hmm.
Uh, a lot of people talk about how they got converted. I don't have that beautiful conversion story because um, being a Christian was part of my upbringing. My mom, my dad, everyone around me, they were Christians. So they would take me to church as a little boy. And from there, with the singing, the preaching, I just got caught up with everything. I didn't really have a time, like I tell my friends, I was not an unbeliever before I became a believer. I didn't get the time to be unbelieving. I was just brought up that way. So
Could I clarify that? Was there a time at which you kind of felt the need to be sure of it? Like where some people would say, yes, I grew up exposed to it, but I needed to kind of make it my own faith. Was there a time where you dedicated your life to the Lord?
I would I would say as it progressed, it got more intense, and I fell in love with the character, Jesus Christ, because of the wonderful stories, the preachings about him that I was hearing. So it's just like a love relationship getting stronger.
Yeah.
There wasn't really a separate time where I can say, no, none of that. It just grew.
Hmm. Gotcha. I guess too, is it's arguably if it's part of your worldview from day one, it's almost like you don't need to declare your faith. It's like you just know that you know that you know that Jesus is real and he's the Lord and that he's your savior and that you're want to live for him. So I definitely get that. Well, tell us more what happened in your story.
What I would point to as the groundbreaker in that whole journey of a little boy going to church, becoming a choir leader, and all of that was when I felt the call to be a pastor, because I was all the time placed in leadership positions in the church, and I felt it, and other prophetic words came to confirm that God was calling me into ministry. So from there, I went to the Redeemed Christian Bible College
In Nigeria.
for 1 year, yes, in Nigeria. And from there again to Omega Bible Institute in Auchi, Edo State, Nigeria, and got trained to be a pastor. That was a higher level of the whole experience, because to be responsible for the flock was really, really a great responsibility. And I had to carry myself as a shepherd.
Hmm.
It wasn't easy, but I kind of, looking back now, I would just laugh, and say, what was I doing really? Because ah, but
Just
it's an experience that I can't forget.
just for context, I don't know too much about the status of the Bible colleges in other countries. What was the size of your college, or like how many other people were around you trying to become pastors?
Redeemed Christian Bible College were about 200
Wow.
for that year. And this is Edo State, not the whole uh, Federation of Nigeria, because each state had their chapter of the Bible College.
Hmm.
Then with the Omega Bible Institute, still around 150 to 200. for
Wow.
that year's session,
All trying to become pastors.
all trying to become pastors.
Wow. Hmm.
Yes.
That's even more, I would say, than my experience. I mean, I went to what I consider a pretty big Bible college, but the actual, I mean, it was liberal arts where there were people trying to become teachers and this and that, but the actual pastoral program, the preacher boys program that I was a part of, that was a very small subsection. Mine was probably more like 20 or 30 max per year that of the people of the whole college. So that's a lot of people on your side that were trying to become pastors. That's amazing.
I don't know if you know that Africa, we produce a lot of pastors every year.
Hmm, interesting.
I tell you.
Did you apart? I know you at that point you weren't, deconverting while you were in it. Did you enjoy it? Was that a good experience for you personally at that time?
Definitely, it was a beautiful experience for me. And the entire Christian phase of my life was beautiful. I grew from one doctrine to another, became more inclusive, and I gained greater understanding of the love of God. That was the direction I took. It wasn't as if I came against my faith. I grew. It's more like evolving to see that God is beyond the box. That was it for me.
And
Does that answer your question?
that's, would you say that experience of you growing your understanding of God's love, that happened mostly during Bible college?
It started from the Bible college because I was confronted with doctrines that questioned love.
Hmm.
If God is all loving, why this? If God is all loving, why selecting and choosing Israel out of the whole of the human race and
Yeah.
dealing with a particular people? I asked those questions to my lecturers. They will say wisdom is bringing division to the class because they never wanted to attend to it. But I took those questions out of the Bible college and found answers my own way by consulting materials and opening myself up to research. That was how it happened.
As you began to ask yourself those harder questions, did you get much pushback, or were people encouraging you to ask the hard questions?
Oh, definitely nobody wanted me to go to that direction.
Okay.
I remember my mentor, he said to me, Wisdom, if you continue with these questions, it will lead you out of the faith. Some things are left unanswered. Leave these things. God knows best. You don't question God. So these pushbacks were coming. People were discouraging me from going to that direction. But there was this drive I couldn't control. I just wanted to get answers. And the more answers I got, the more questions that came with those answers.
It's interesting. Can I ask, just for clarification, what were some of the things that were concerning you when they said God is loving, besides the issue of God choosing Israel? Was there anything else that came to mind? Like, were
There
you
is
looking at the issue of hell, for example?
the issue of hell was part of it, but predominantly it was on the doctrine of predestination.
Okay. So they were leaning towards Calvinism, it sounds like.
Calvinism, yes.
Mm.
And why would God choose? And this is God playing a game with us?
Yeah.
He chose some character to play the devil. Like he said, I hardened the heart of Pharaoh just to prove my power. Those things were not adding up for me, And do you think we are here to be a pawn in your scheme? I don't get it. I needed answers. And those who knew better, who I thought knew better, my leaders, my teachers, I brought these questions to them. They were running from it.
When you looked at that stuff, it obviously has ramifications for you as well. Did you fear that you were in danger, like that the devil might be tempting you to think these thoughts, or that you were in danger of becoming a heretic, an apostate, or anything like that, or even a, not even a saved person, and totally shipwrecking your life and eternity?
At some point, I confessed. I came to meet my mentor. He succeeded to tell me that the devil wanted my soul. So he set up a prayer meeting where I knelt down and confessed that these questions, these thoughts, the voice of Satan was speaking within me, because that's what they called it, that they should pray for me for these voices to go away. They prayed for me. I left that meeting. The questions continued. So that's it.
And as you brought these questions up to your family, how did your family respond?
Oh, you see, growing up as a Christian, from that, becoming a pastor brought great respect and dignity to my parents. They were seen in our community as good parents who brought up their child in the way of the Lord. And if this child goes away from that path, it was going to be shame and disgrace to the family. My mother cried and said to me, "Son, stop this."
It's a lot of
So
pressure.
I think of all the pressures, the family pressure was the highest, because seeing my mother cry, "Wisdom, stop this. This is not good." It broke me, but I couldn't help it.
It's amazing. It's amazing how much the pressure by our, loved ones, quote unquote, how much they want to keep us in the same faith, of course, as them, but in the community, but also just to help us avoid hell in their minds, but also just to make sure that we're not bucking the system, whatever you call it. There's so many ways in which you look at this stuff and you can kind of say, yeah, they loved us, they were trying to be concerned for us, but at the same time, the disrespect, like the lack of saying you're free to have autonomy to think your own thoughts without fear of judgment from us or threats from this God. Like if you don't believe like us, you're going to go burn in hell someday. The lack of respect, the lack of true care, enough care to say you can go your own way and we'll still love you. It blows me away. I hear that kind of stuff quite a bit. Can I ask, just to go back for 1 second to your pastoral preparation? If you had gone down that path and, before you started to really shift your belief system, while you were in the height of the pastoral program, could you tell us, what would you have told people is the way to get saved? How would people have peace with God?
I pastored despite having these questions. I pastored for 13 years.
Hmm.
These were questions haunting me, but I didn't bring these questions to the pulpit. I preached salvation through the cross, even though I questioned that. I had to keep the church going. That was my way of surviving. That was where my food will come from. That was where I'll feed my family. So for me, it was doing the job, but having my inward, call it conflict. So I would preach to people. Let me chip this in. Of all the preachers, I have read the works of Charles Spurgeon more than any other person. So I would preach like Spurgeon. I was a very good preacher, and move the people to repentance and to depend on the cross for their salvation. I was doing that. I was digging deep. I wanted my own answers. So that was it. Did I threaten people with hell? Not really, because I kind of found a way around that. It wasn't cool for me, so there was no need bringing that dread on the people. I compelled them to come to the cross through the love of Christ, not through
Mm.
the fear of hell. So this was my unique way of um, getting sense or getting people saved. The love of God was enough to compel them.
When you were pastoring, were you married at that point?
Yes, I had to marry very early so that I don't fall into sin.
Okay. Is that
So
typical in Nigeria to marry early?
not typical of Nigerians, but if you are a pastor, it is taught in the Bible college that it is one of the ways to protect yourself from falling into the sin of fornication.
Yeah,
So
gotcha.
at 24, I was already married.
Mm. When you were starting to deconstruct your faith, were you free to share your questions and concerns with your wife?
Yes.
That's great.
Till this point, we left religion together. To this point, we we sit back together to, just make jokes of the days when we were still pastors, and that we came out of it together. We grew together.
Mm. Well, going back then to the time you were a pastor, but not sure, where your theology needed to evolve to, how did you move it on from sticking with the party line, the traditional message of evangelicalism? How did you move it on from there? Like, what were the steps that took you past being a pastor?
I was reading ancient works. John Boyan, with his work, The Pilgrim's Progress, and Charles Spurgeon, E.W. Kenyon's work, and who else? A lot of them. Most especially, I won't leave out St. Augustine, his confession. I went for these works. I wanted answers. I didn't want to deal on the surface. So the more I delved deeper into ancient works, the more I saw philosophy around religion. St. Augustine's work made that very, very clear for me that religion evolves from philosophy. That was a groundbreaker for me also. And so with this, I was constantly shifting, constantly growing, evolving from time to time. And I also saw that if these things came from philosophy, we can also correct them philosophically, not being controlled by the Bible. It helped me to grow beyond the Bible. And what that did was I remember going for The Antiquity of the Jews by Flavian Josephus. I just wanted the background to the Bible. I read the entire works. I saw a lot of contradictions with the Bible, but it gave me a larger view, a broader perspective to the Bible story. And with all of that happening, I just became bigger than the system. So I could now sit back, and instead of being controlled by fear, I was motivated to reason with the scriptures. The fear was gone. Then my intelligence was activated. I could reason with the scriptures to say, this philosophy doesn't apply. It doesn't work. Why this? Why that? And that was the shift.
Can I ask, with when that happens, a lot of times people are afraid that they're putting themselves in a spot of questioning God and kind of saying, God, I'm I'm switching from you're the judge and I'm just the one that listens to you and listens to your judgments, to I'm going to judge you, or at least, judge the Bible. Were you afraid of putting yourself in that frame of mind where you were kind of testing God, as it were, and even questioning his, his authority, or questioning his truthfulness or his goodness?
You see, the whole God thing started falling off. And when I began to see beyond the Bible, then an angle, a dimension to it came in. What if there was no God? What if this is just all a lie? That came in. And I said, okay, what if this is great mind coming together, looking for a way to make humans behave? And they came up with this. Or what if religion evolved from culture? I was having several aspects, but deep down, there was already this knowing, once you question God, he ceases to exist. The moment you question if there is God, then that is it. The fear to ask that question is the barrier. The moment you can honestly ask the question, what if there is no God? You never recover from that. So the moment I started asking that question, that fear of God was gone. The character or the image of God that I had from childhood completely dissolved. So this wasn't a thing of me judging God, because this was just me judging the mind, the journey of the human mind captured in religion. It was me now reasoning against reasoning. That was what was now happening. I didn't see a huge figure behind this anymore. It was just mind to mind.
That's awesome. I love you. You have a great way with words. I love the way you put that.
Thank you.
As you began to move towards, more of a questioning of God's existence, how did you proceed to answer those questions and get it over the finish line to the point where you were actually completely exiting Christianity? Like, how long was that process from when you first started to seriously really ask the question you just talked about to when you were just like, I'm done?
You see, this journey was from the Bible college to practicing as a full-time pastor, 13 years. So with each question or area to look, I went for materials. I would download PDFs. Since I couldn't ask my teachers, my mentors, I would read. But towards the pandemic, and I wasn't going to church, wasn't preaching to anybody. That did something. Yes.
So you were just researching all the time?
I was just researching.
Mm.
I have I kept those books because I can always refer to them. The days of, I will get the PDF and print them out. I wanted hard copy. So I bought a printer. I was doing my printing and reading. One time, Tim, my wife took a picture of me in my studies and uploaded it on Facebook. And my mother saw it. It created a huge family problem. Too much reading has made him mad, she said. Oh, we finally found it. It is with the books he's reading. So she will come with people to the house and they will say to me, Wisdom, away with these books. The Bible is enough. So all of these happened in that 13 years period. But after the pandemic or during the pandemic, that was it. It ended. The whole God thing. I found my answer. We live in a mental reality, mind to mind. The weaker mind will believe. The stronger mind will question. Was my conclusion. and I considered myself to be a strong mind. So hence, I question. And the stronger mind doesn't only question, it questions so that it can advance the field of study. So I accepted that I was here to build, to advance the work. The aim wasn't to build a religion. The aim was for man to know what life and existence is all about. But the weaker mind will come because they are unable to match up with the frequency of thought of the ancient ones, will build a belief system and stay there. But when the strong mind comes, we interact with that philosophy and find fault where there should be fault and bring a unique perspective into these fields of studies and then advance it. This was my conclusion. So there was no God, there was no devil. It was just reality, your mind looking into reality.
That's awesome. How have your family and loved ones responded since since you've been more vocal about it? Have they shunned you, or have they learned to be okay with it?
For 2 years after my transition, we were not in touch. No talks, no chats, nothing. But then somewhere they were referring, life will always bring them around and show them, what if wisdom was, that's my other name, wisdom, by the way. What if wisdom is right? What if you are attacking him out of fear? So one day my mom said to me, yeah, the things you are saying, I'm beginning to see some truth to it.
Wow.
But don't take God away, she said. So already when I'm with them, I don't go too far. I just stay, God is love. God does not choose, God does not reject. So I found a common ground. And I love my family. So I just found a common ground with them. And what I did was, on my Facebook, I restricted them from seeing my content because it would disturb them. If they come to a place where they become more free, they have, they see things more broadly, then I can remove the restriction. So that's it.
That's awesome. I love how that's, I mean, it's a positive step. It's a shame in some ways that it's not, further, of course, but it's all little steps. And I like to remind myself that it took me, 44 years, 43 years to get out. And like, if it took me 43 years, why should I only give someone else, 6 months or a year? It's like,
Thank you.
it takes time. And my actual like strict time of study, like you were saying, you were deconstructing during college. Mine was a little bit after that, but it was a good 3.5 years of like intense study. It's like, it's a long time. And, it's just because we bring these topics up to other people, some of them are just not ready yet. And they need the time to think about it too. But it's awesome that you've been able to stay in touch with your family like that and kind of reconnect, because there's so many stories where that doesn't happen, where it's just like, if you're not a Christian, we pretty much need to push you further away. Can I ask, when you and your wife were going through this, were your deconversions about approximately the same time? And did you all end up kind of landing together close enough that there was never an issue, or was there ever a time where it was like, oh, you're going too far with this?
There was that time, because the passion, she couldn't keep up with the passion. And she would look at me and say, but where is this leading to? Where will this get you? When will it end? When will you stop? So from time to time, I still remind her of her patience and love during those years. But she actually came into the full awareness after I had gone through it, and I was now vocal about it. and I was more loving. She saw that there was so much love. I had so much love to give, no judgment coming from me. People could be whatever they want to be around me. I don't get to tell people how to behave. I just let people be. And that was attracting people to me. She saw a lot of people that society will put away. For example, where if they are gay, for example, if they had other views, about life. I saw that to be, you see, life is very artistic in its nature. And you don't limit life. You allow life to express all that it is. I actually am keen on seeing why people do things the way they do. And this is beautiful. So when she saw that I was seeing beauty in everything, she fell in love with that. And that was what brought her own transformation.
That's awesome. I can tell you've got a beautiful heart, man. Got a really beautiful heart. It's awesome. I see it shining through. I did want to ask, you have 3 kids. I was curious about how becoming an atheist has changed the way you see your responsibility as a father, and together with your wife, how you all see parenting differently than you would have as a Christian.
It changes everything. If you are a believer, your belief will set the tone for everything that happens in your life. If you stop believing and you are free, everything about you is free. And that includes parenting. There is a Nigerian term we use, iron hand. That is being very strict with your children. That iron hand mentality didn't come in anymore. I actually allow my kids teach me, because there's something about them. Like I said, life is very artistic. I want to see them be all that they are. And through that, I find a window to see an aspect of life that no other person could have shown me but them. So I don't identify as an atheist, but I don't believe in anything, not in God, not in the devil. I just know that we live in a metaverse, a mental life. Life is mind. The mind can create and be limited by its own creation. So I did not allow my mind create anything. I just allow it flow. That's the most common word I use, the flow. Intelligence should flow. It should not get stuck with a belief or a mind. It shouldn't take a form. It should flow. Question everything. When you find the answer, question the answers too. That's how I live. So this is freedom for me, for my loved ones, for everyone around me. And I enjoy parenting because I have no expectations from my kids. I just want them to be who they are. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Well, I did want to make sure I gave some time to also ask you about your work. Could you tell us about how this whole switch of your worldview, really your belief system, how did this worldview shift evolve into more of a humanitarian focus? Like what caused that shift, which is really just I love what you're doing. It's awesome.
Thank you. There's something I was almost missing, I would say. When, after the pandemic, when it was over with these beliefs, I had a decision to make because I was still pastoring. I was feeding from the church. Should I keep having a church Or what should I do with the members? I had about 200 of them again, worshiping under that roof, which include children and everybody. What should I do? And if I tell everybody to go away, what will I eat? You know, it was very difficult. But at the end, I decided, because being a pastor did not allow me learn any skill. It was just from church to church. That was all. So if I stop this, what will I go to? What will I fall on? But I concluded. I had a conference and I was open about my journey with everyone. As I was sharing, people stood up and started walking away. In the end, I was left with my wife, my children, and 5 people. That was the end of the church. They never came back. These 5 people wanted to know what happened to me. You were such an honest pastor. How did you get here? With them, I built friendship. 3 out of the 5 are non-Christians as we speak. They are living beautiful lives and making progress with whatever they do. So, after a month, reality came knocking. What will you eat? So my wife was teaching. She will come with her salary. That could barely feed the household. So I decided to come online and start to talk about the journey. So I started sharing. While I was sharing, someone sent a DM from Australia. Her name is Sarah, and said to me, Wisdom, this is beautiful. How are you? How is family? We became friends. And from 2020 till now, Sarah made a commitment to my feeding. That really touched me. We don't know each other before. She just saw my story and loved my family. As I was sharing, then I met Wishe online. 2020 also. And the connection came. Her story and mine were identical.
And she's from Belgium, correct?
She's from Belgium. So, few months, 2 months, 2.5 months of meeting on Facebook, she came to Nigeria. She sold all that she had to come. She wanted to live in Nigeria together with me and my family and spread this awareness. So we stayed together for a month. We stayed together for a month, and we started Love Wise Initiative, a humanitarian organization. For me, one of the greatest influence was Sarah, because Sarah had to do cleaning. I later found out what she does. She will clean in Australia. And then every week when she's paid, she will take out something and send to my family. And now more and more people are getting to know me and support me. And Wisha is now with me together. At least we have funds coming in and we could start something. And I said, this is good. There is this story I don't know if you will be interested in it, of women accused of witchcraft, and they are banished out of the society because of that. So some of them would build little tents in the bush, and in these tents they will live. They eat whatever they get. Nobody care for their health. I had interest in it. I spoke with Mika, a friend from the United States, and she was very, very, very much interested. She got people to partner with us, and we got these women. We gave them food. We gave them medical checkups. There were about 40 of them. It was mind-blowing. It was so beautiful touching lives in this way, and we've kept that going. We're currently looking at how to start a farm so that more and more people can depend on that and live from that. This is what we are doing.
That's awesome. Is there a Facebook page or a website or anything where people could go to read more about your work?
Yes, LoveWise Initiative. I will send a link.
Okay. Is it lovewiseinitiative.com or
.org we have, or .com? I will send a link.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I'll scratch it out and I'll just start over. And if anyone does want to get more information about your group, LoveWise Initiative, I'll put the link beneath our video so they can just go like and check out what you're doing. That is really awesome. I love it. It's so cool to see how you're turning your, otherwise kind of a hard situation, really, and arguably a dangerous situation with not being able to provide for your family at first into such an outward facing service to other people. That's great. And I love the fact that, when we were Christians, it was always like Christians are the most loving people. They're the ones that are the most gracious. They're the ones that are the most giving. It's amazing to when you deconvert, when you realize that it's always been us. Like, it hasn't been God working through us. It hasn't been Jesus working through us, the Spirit working through us. It's just been us. So, like, our natural desire to help our neighbor had nothing to do with this mythology of Christianity. And so once you're free of it, you're just as free to, once you're free of Christianity, you're just as free to serve other people. It's just now you're not motivated by, oh, I'm doing this so someday I get a reward in heaven. You're just purely doing it out of a selfless, altruistic sense of, I just want to help my neighbor. And I don't care if I get something in return. I just want to bless them. And it's, in some ways, it's more honest. I think it's more selfless to say, I'm doing this knowing that I don't get something for it. There's no reward. I'm not going to get well done, you good and faithful servant, from the Lord someday in heaven. But that's just awesome. So lots of kudos from this side. High commendations from over here. So I do want to ask, before we wrap up, just how is your life going? You've talked a little bit about your nonprofit, but how are you doing as a family? How are you doing individually now that all this change has occurred?
Life couldn't have been more simple and beautiful than now that religion is taken away, because actually these beliefs were the greatest complication and confusion that I had to face in my life. Now that these are gone now, there is so much. I feel I can breathe, and everything around me is touched by that freedom, that space. I'm so happy that I didn't stop questioning. I'm so happy that I saw it to the end. Life is good in general, family, parenting, marriage, everything. I am married, but free. My partner is married and free also. There is no love brought us together, and that's all. No scriptural control. This is the duty of a man. God says this about a woman. All of that is gone. So there is genuineness, there is freedom.
I love it. That's so cool. And how are your kids doing with everything at this point? How old are they, by the way?
There's 8, there's 6, and there's 1 year old.
Oh, wow. So you're not getting too much sleep. We've got a busy house here at this side too. How are they doing with everything? And do they sense the difference? Like, do they sense that some of the neighbors they might play with, that they're Christian, and are they getting proselytized too? And how does that work out for them?
It's just freedom. But anyway, they attend a Christian school. One time, my son, his name is Rest. He came and said to me, Daddy, we've been asked to bring a Bible to school. I said, but for what reason? He said he doesn't know. So I took him in the car, drove to the school, and asked the school owner, why did you ask them to bring a Bible? He said, they want to start a fellowship. I said, if you want to do anything with religion, ask them to bring a Bible, a Quran, all that religious books. Bring all of them together. Give them a general religious knowledge, not in one direction. This is you trying to indoctrinate them. They saw reasons with me and said, okay. I said, I didn't bring them here to become pastors because I'm really watching for that. And they said, okay, if we want to do with religion, since we can't do with all the religion, then we just leave it. I was happy that we had an understanding, so I left.
That's
I'm
awesome.
always finding my way around all of these things because once you get a child's mind to be conditioned, that's really not good. They caught me young, and I don't want them to catch my children young.
Well
That's
said.
it.
Well said. I was curious, just a few final questions, we'll wrap up. How safe is it to be a non-believer in Nigeria? Is there any threat?
No, there's only a threat for the believer because of the Muslim-Christian conflict.
Okay.
If you are a non-believer, you are the safest person if you don't try to tell them that there's no God. Once you want to tell them there's no God, you called for whatever you will get.
Yeah. Is it true that homosexuals would face severe ostracization there?
Absolutely true.
Or would they be in danger of going to prison or their lives being threatened?
Yes, their life threatened, danger of going to prison. The neighbors, if, for example, in this apartment, there is someone that is homosexual and the neighbors get to know, they can actually get around and beat the person to near death. They don't want it. It's crazy. So what they do is they are finding, you see, with life, we will always find a way to survive. These people are linking up with each other and sharing survival tips with one another. And the celebrities in Nigeria are beginning to talk about it. So this is relaxing the tension in the society. I think with time, we'll be more open in Africa generally to give people the freedom to be what they want to.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I love your story, man. It's awesome stuff. I love your insights. Did you have anything else to add before we wrap up?
None that I can think about at the moment.
Okay, cool. Well, again, everyone, I will have the link for the Lovewise initiative beneath this video, so please go check it out. We've been speaking with Amedu Oriazele. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Okay. We've been speaking with Amedu Oriazele. Amedu, thank you so much. Great to hear your story. Great to get to know you and to hear your insights. Thank you again for what you're doing for the humans there, your neighbors in Nigeria, and we look forward to keep in touch. And I'd love to check in with you at some point and kind of hear how the organization is going and hopefully exponentially expanding. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Have a great day.